In this lesson, we'll talk about using Substance to create tileable textures for our interior models. So instead of using a simple procedural to create something or a texture map that we've painted outside of in another application, we can kind of get an in-between area where we can take a tileable texture from within Maya and have a lot of flexibility in modifying that. So let's add some stone tile onto this hallway. So let's go into our Hypershade, and we're going to access Substance by going to 2D Textures. I want to add Substance. Now I want to make sure that this is set to 2D Normal first. So let's add a Substance. Now I'm going to double click on this, and this is where we're going to open our Substance node, and it's going to allow us to choose what kind of look we want. So under Texture Settings, we're going to go to Substance File, and that's where we're going to find the actual substance we want to create. So we'll go in here, and we actually need to navigate not to our project files, but to our program files on our local machine. So now I've navigated to Program Files, Autodesk, Maya, and then I'm going to come down to, Substance, and then Substances. And here you'll find a long list of substances that you can actually load in to use. So anything from aircraft metal to concrete, corrugated metal, granite, all different kinds of substances. Let's bring in one, maybe this Stone Tiles 3, and you can see here we've got these tiles loaded in and gives you a preview of what that's going to look like. If you want to change that out, we can again go back to that same folder and maybe bring in, let's use the Stone Tiles 2. So maybe that's what we want to actually use. You can also set the size in here, and then all we have to do is say create shader network. And it's going to automatically create a material. It's got the substance node that's controlling everything, and then we've got a normal map, a color map, and a specular map. So now all we have to do is take this geometry and assign our material. Okay, so you can see that loaded up here. Now it's really, really large at this point, so we can change the tiling by going into the placement node and just changing the repeat. So maybe change this to 6 by 6 to get something a little bit closer to what we want. And you can get kind of an idea of what that looks like here. If you want to IPR render that, that'll give you even a better idea. But now we can come into our substance and modify these substance parameters. So, and we could change the age. We can set that age a little bit higher, and it actually will darken up the inside of the tile, so showing a little bit more age. We can also change the color variation, so we could modify that color variation. We can also change the depth, okay, emboss the angle. There's a lot of things that we can change in here based on the textures that we've got. So some of the things affect the normal map, and some of these settings affect the color, but it's all connected in, so it gives you a nice look here. Let's do a quick render just to see that a little bit more clearly. So there we've got an IPR region set up, just done an IPR render and dragged across that region. And so you can probably see a little bit better now if I change the age of this. It's going to, should update there. So it makes it a little bit darker, you can see that. I take this color variation down, you can see it takes that variation and changes that. Okay, and then you can also, modify the depth. So if we set this, you can see the effects of all of these attributes change as the render updates. And so you have the ability to change these attributes based on the substance that you have. So in this case, we've got these sort of stone tiles in here, and you could change this if you're working with something that is more. Well, let's take a look at some of the other substances that we have there. We go ahead and load these up and talk about some of the options here. So you're working with different man-made pieces. You've got ceramics that you can work with. If you've got some interior walls, you can use brick on those. Different kinds of concrete that you can use on your maybe stained concrete floor, things like that. You've got some metal, marble, things like that can be good for interiors. There's a lot of exterior stuff here as well too, if you're working on exteriors as roads and tarmac and things like that. But also some of the stone tiles will work. Some of the leather might work, and the wood. So you have a few options in here for working with interiors that you can use those. You just want to load those up, create your shader, and then you can go in and modify it. And again, real easy to go in and swap it out with another type of substance. So try that out, experiment with that a little bit, but it's a good option for kind of an in-between procedural node that isn't going to give you a lot of detail and a very specific texture that may require a little bit more work. This, if you really need something quick, can be a good solution. So in the next lesson, let's take a look at laying out UVs to fit a particular texture alignment. So sometimes things are deformed and distorted, but when we lay them out, we want them to lay out nice and straight because of the way that the texture should flow across the particular model. So we'll take a look at that next.